to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and the Texas flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Good night. Sometimes it go like that. Okay. We're going to begin with statement and oath of office for single-member districts 4 and 5.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
I, CISD, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of San Marcos School Board Member, District 5 of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
thank you. Okay, Ms. Hanson, in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
I, Catherine Jean Pereira Hanson, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of San Marcos CISD School Board Member, District 4 of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
thank you both.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with our superintendent's report.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you. First, I just want to thank all the teachers and administrators and students, most importantly, who spent the last week in an uncomfortable situation setting. If you're a high school kid, you're still in that uncomfortable situation with AP testing, and then we have final exams at the end of the year. But I do appreciate all the hard work and diligence that everybody's put in to this year. I appreciate y'all very much. And at this point, I'm going to turn this ceremony, my report, over to Andrew Fernandez. And if I can just get y'all to go up to the front for a bunch of pictures, because we have a bunch of kids doing a bunch of great things.
Good evening and welcome to the San Marcos CISD School Board meeting. We have a lot of students and teachers to honor tonight, so we'll get going right away. So please help me introduce our San Marcos High School choir, Ms. Sheridan and Ms. Smith.
Our students competed at UIL concert and sight reading on on April 15th, 16th, and 17th. And there you go, there's our holder. And this was the first year in over 25 years that we've had 5 competing choirs from this high school, and the first time that anybody can remember that we had 2 men's groups go. So we are very, very proud of them. And our representative for our JV men is Xander Nesbitt. You can go ahead and wave there, Xander. There you go. And for our JV women is Chloe Perales. For our varsity women's Mazzy Reyes. For our varsity men, Tay Ogunbaje. And for our varsity mixed choir, Brandon Kobayashi. All of the plaque that you see that represents superior scores on stage, they got all 1s, and the trophies represent straight 1s across the board for all of them. So we're very, very proud of them.
Probably the best thing that we read was that judges wanted to come sing in our choir, and they hadn't even heard a varsity group yet. So from like bottom up, our kids are awesome. So.
One more round of applause for our San Marcos High School choir. They have a banquet to go to now, right? So enjoy the night. Next, I'd like to call up Coach Acker with our men's boys basketball team to talk about their successes over this past school year.
Good evening. Our guys are coming in, I hope. We brought them here tonight to recognize them for their, guys right in the middle, please. Recognize them for their all-district honors. Some of them received all-district honors from their play on the floor, and others received it for academic reasons. So the first group of guys we want to recognize are all-district honorable mention team. This is, again, from actions on the floor. We have Josh Taillon. We have Joey Hernandez and CJ Valencia. Then we had two second team all-district members, and that's Mason Green and Pablo Rios IV. And we had 7 academic all-district members, and just so we understand what that is, that means they averaged a 90 or above in all of their classes during the entire season. So it's a big honor. And those are Josh Taillon, Mason Green, Joey Hernandez, Gabe Sanchez, Devin Tovar, Chris Urrutia, and CJ Valencia. And finally, we have one academic all-state, and he's all-state in for two different organizations, Texas Association of Basketball Coaches and the Texas High School Coaches Association. And in order to receive this honor, you have to have averaged a 92 or above for the entire 7 semesters up until your last semester of school. So Gabriel Sanchez was all-state academic. Obviously, these and other young men are a great representation of what we do here at San Marcos High School. We're extremely proud of them, and they're a great beacon for our program and our school. Thank you all very much.
And parents, you're welcome to come up to take pictures. Dr. Baez, team player, let's give her a round of applause. Keep smiling.
Hold your stomachs in. Oh, wait, y'all don't have stomachs. Oh, man. Yeah.
All right, one more round of applause
Starting
for
to
our
sweat. Nice job, guys. Nice job, guys. Nice job, guys.
Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Chris Cooper to explain some of the art awards we received here at San Marcos High School.
Hello, my name is Chris Cooper. I'm the head of the Visual Arts Department at San Marcos High School, and we have 3 groups of students that we'd like to recognize tonight. First, as many of you know, San Marcos High School hosts not only Region 13 South VIII, which is Visual Arts Scholastic event, it's our UIL equivalent. We also, for the last 2 years, have hosted the state event as well at San Marcos High School. We had about 3,500 to 3,800 people here, and Mr. Cardona graciously welcomed everyone. So, yeah, he did. He was very gracious. So, on April 27th, we hosted State VIII. Out of the 34,000 plus events statewide, or our artwork entry statewide, we advanced 2371 to state, and 6 of those were our students. So I need Isabella de la Iglesia, Kaylee Crowder, Emily Holacek, Leah Bossevane, Amber Hayes, and Haley Torrance first. And as you all know, this is a busy time of year, so not everybody can make it, but we're happy for the ones who made it. So Isabella and Kaylee and Emily were all named All-State Artists. They got a top rating at the state event. Leah, Amber, and Haley also are all area artists. So these are our All-State Artists up here. And one more thing about this group. Isabella was honored with a $500 scholarship. Our executive director for Texas Art Ed Association, Sarah Chapman, gives this scholarship each year in honor of a daughter who she lost too young. And she picks a piece that she thinks well represents artwork in Texas. So, Mr. Cardona, Sarah's asked if you would present this to Isabella. Would you mind? Yeah. Well, you know, there's a letter in the envelope. So we just wanted to recognize Isabella for this honor before we move on to our next category of all-state artists. Okay, and you three can stay up there until we're done. The next group that we want to recognize are artists whose work was selected as all-state from a juried Youth Art Month exhibit that takes place each year in March in Austin. The work is shown at both the Bullock Library and at the Capitol. It's a juried show of 100 pieces from all over the state. And so I need Araya Blythe, Sydney Cownley, and Avery Jones, if they're here. I know Avery is. There's Sydney. Sydney and Araya were actually able to attend the ceremony in Austin and had their photos taken with Mrs. Cecilia Abbott, who is one of our biggest supporters of State Youth Art Month. She not only attends, she drapes each student with their medal and has a photo taken with each one of the 100, usually about 105 total students. So we heart Mrs. Abbott. Okay, our third group is a group that they were selected as winners of a commissioned art piece that Mr. Rogers is going to tell you just a tiny bit about. Tell him what it is.
Sure.
Because he won the grant.
So for the past 2 years, I've been working with the Nature Center and the Indigenous Cultures Institute, if you're familiar with Mario Garza, that puts on the powwows every year. And he suggested we do a group public project where the kids tell the original Quahatecan creation story, that they believe that everything started at the mouth of our river, which is kind of a cool idea. And so, yes, through the springs. So we thought we would do a river display of that. So anyhow, the kids came up with, well, first I came up with this project, and the city gave me some money to fund it, and 6 kids are getting a $500 scholarship for their design. So
we thank Mr. Rogers for coordinating this community project. It'll be created next year. Our design winners, Leela Jackson, Isabella Elmore, Faith Voorhees, Sage Gonzalez, Michaela Manriquez, and Brenna Horton. Come on up. Okay, so I'm, of course, in the art department. Tom Rogers, Darren Wood, and Amanda Arredondo. We're the 4 art teachers here.
Come on, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, she's the photography teacher, so she's going to help with that. Here, get somewhere. Margie needs to be in front.
And their artwork is displayed outside, so at the end of the meeting, we can check out their artwork. Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Hutchinson for our scholastic winners.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Hutchinson. I teach language arts, 8th grade at Miller, and I have some award-winning, courageous young writers to tell you about. Three 8th graders from Miller were brave enough to submit their pieces to a national contest, the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and 3 of our young ladies won honorable mentions. The first one, Gwen Smith. Gwen's here. Faith Courtney. And then Vanessa Vergaro is not able to be here tonight, but she also won.
Awesome, thank you.
Congratulations.
Next, I'd like to call up our Blue Bonnet Girl State delegates. So Jocelyn Gregoria Garcia, Selena Parra, and Deva Flowers, these are the Girls State delegates who will receive a scholarship from the American Legion Auxiliary to attend Girls State at Texas Lutheran University campus on June 16th through the 22nd. And Zaisha Perkins. Let's give them a round of applause. Congratulations, ladies. Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Lovelace to talk about their accomplishments with Special Olympics.
We have a lot of kids doing a lot of different things.
Let's give them a round of applause as they walk in.
Can I get the athletes and coaches to come up front?
Line them up. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. How are you doing?
All right, thank you, Mr. Cardona and the board for inviting us today. My name is Amy Lovelace. I'm one of the coaches for Special Olympics. And as you can see, it takes a village for it to run smoothly. This year was the first year we did track, and we competed in an area competition on April 27th, and the athletes did amazing. We had 11 first place medals, 7 second place medals, 5 third place, 8 fourth place, and 1 fifth place. I'd like to take a minute just to recognize our coaches. We've got Amanda Bland and Caitlin Ripley at the high school. Lauren Dawkins for middle schools. And Taylor Brandis for elementary. And then I'd also like to give a shout out to all of our volunteers. We had more than that actually showed up. So Debbie Ropolo, Rachel Smith, Monica Martinez, Shannon Voigt, Tori Freeman, Sagar Patel, Julia Garcia, Isaiah Median, our awesome nurse Arlene Mendoza, and we'd like to especially honor our #1 volunteer, Tammy Mayrano. She made every practice and the competition, and we appreciate all of your support. So thank you very much. And let's see, let's recognize all of the athletes. So we've got Anthony Torres, Tyler Webb, Mark Median, Casey Teague, Michaela Gonzalez, Peter Courtney, Angela Perez, Sophie Bates, Joseph Ropolo, and Kinley Farquhar. So, also another shout out to the parents. Thank you all for taking time to get your kids to the practice. This is such an important program, and we really appreciate everything y'all do. So, thank you.
And parents, you're welcome to scoot a little closer if you want to take a picture.
Hold on.
One second.
So next, if we can have our AVID students who joined us, who took the trip to Harvard University, and we actually have a video to show. So if we can turn down the lights, I know we did it earlier. I'll wait till they come in so they can watch it. So these are San Marcos High School AVID students. So if you can join us up front, and we have a video for you guys. Let's see if you recognize anyone in the video. So I promised them I wouldn't embarrass them and have them come up and speak, so we made a video, right? All right, here we go.
Since I am like the first generation, I'm like the very first one going to college, I wanted to like show them how this trip really helped me out with that. It was like very big for me. Like this is my first time ever being away from my mom, ever being out of the state. Like basically it was a whole new experience for me, and the whole trip is like something that I get to like share with my entire family.
Honestly, it's an honor. I wouldn't expect it, but it happened, and I'm really proud to be honoring San Marcos right now. I think what I can do with this experience is change many people's lives. Like, I can help them want to take a footstep to go to college.
You can look up on the internet as much as you want to know about a campus, but there's just something different about really being there and then like really seeing the people and really seeing, like really diving into their culture and their community. It's just, and it makes it seem actually possible, you know?
Estos colegios a los que fuimos el trip de Harvard, aprendimos que no le hace vengas, en qué país donde vengas, qué religión eres, cuáles son tus problemas financieras o lo que sea, ellos aquí te ayudan.
A ellos no les importa tu pasado o lo que sea, pero a ellos les importa que seas alguien en la vida, ¿sí me entienden? Aquí puedes escoger lo que tú quieras hacer.
The fact that someone from our high school was able to make it to a big school like that, it like made me feel like I actually had a chance, because we come from such a small town and like going into a big school is like a good thing.
I'm like really thankful. Like I couldn't thank them so much because I've never been on a plane. This is my first experience. I'm just truly like blessed to be on here. I don't know how to thank them.
I think more people should be going on this trip. It was really really eye-opening for me, and I appreciated it.
I just want to say, like, I'm completely grateful for this experience, and I never would have thought this would have been available to me. I never would have thought I'd say, hey, I went to Harvard University, like, that's big. And I think that for them funding it and for them actually caring about it just shows that there's so much more to our campus and our students here, that they truly care about us and that we can just go out and, like, dream big because they said it for us.
Muchas gracias por esta donación que me han dado. Muchas gracias por haberme dado la oportunidad de venir aquí a Harvard a aprender muchas cosas. Y gracias por esta experiencia tan grande que impactó mi inteligencia, mi vida y todas esas cosas. In English, thank you a lot for these donations. Thank you for a lot with this trip. I learned a lot about this trip. Now I can think about what I can do after my service, and now this affects my life. Thank you. Thank you.
So now I'll let Ms. Kelly, their teacher, introduce them and explain a little bit about the process.
Good evening. We almost have everybody here, but we have Itzel Rangel on the far right. She's graduating this year and just decided to go to UTSA. Yay. We have Amani Patino, Chelsea Williams, Esperanza. We've got Holly and Desiree Matlock, and Clarissa Ugaldi, Roman Benitez, and Tony Moreno. And I'm sorry, Esperanza, I blanked, totally blanked. These guys, out of over our 100 avid students at the high school, went above and beyond. They were offered an opportunity and they took it. They weren't afraid to go for something. So they had to have excellence in their attendance, in their grades, in their timeliness, in the way that they carried themselves around campus amongst their peers, in their classrooms. And then they were challenged to write an actual Harvard admissions essay. They all had to write an actual essay and submit that. And then they had to put together a presentation, and they were interviewed in front of a panel that was made of our Avid Site team here at the high school, plus a few volunteers. And so they had to do the real thing. They had to sit in front of adults and by themselves and answer a bunch of questions and show that this was an opportunity that they were going to use as a gift, and then make sure to turn it over and pay it forward with the lessons that they learned. So we're very, very proud.
Mr. Kerry Beckerdahl. So both teachers went on the Boston trip with these students, and I was able to join them on this trip as well to document and put together this video. And I just want to share with the community how well they represented San Marcos, the school district, the high school, and this community. Mr. Beckerdahl, if you need to get around Boston, he's the guy to go to. He showed us. So I learned just as much as the students of how to get around the city of Boston, how to use their system down there. Ms. Crystal Kelly's great with these students as well. She's like a mother figure to them, and you can see the relationship she has with her students. So I just want to recognize them, but just the students, thank you. And I know I talked to you all that last night that we were there, but thank you for just representing San Marcos CISD so well. I know we had a few incidents take place that week when we were in Harvard, and we want to let the people know that you are the shining light here in this high school, here in this community. So thank you so much for everything you do for us and representing us. All right, one group photo, ready? Last one, I promise. How many pictures do we take when we're over there? They got tired of me at the end, I tell you that. So thank you, guys. That's our last recognition, and Ms. Halsey would like to read a proclamation.
Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being, and whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. Therefore, I, Am Halsey, do hereby proclaim May 2019 as Mental Health Month in San Marcos CISD. On behalf of the San Marcos CISD School Board, I also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in San Marcos, Texas, to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Halsey serves on the Coalition for Mental Health, and we appreciate you representing the district on that. Thank you so much. We're now going to move into public forum. We have Rodrigo Amaya, Accountability of Leadership.
Good evening, trustees. I'm here tonight to respond or share with this board and the public about the situation you had here with that rumor that 1,100 kids didn't show up to school. You know, the way it was handled was very embarrassing. I have a daughter who's a freshman here, and she was repeatedly told throughout the day of how much money the school spent because the students didn't show up. I didn't appreciate that at all. You know, I know the paper says that it's not about the money. Then why was my daughter repeatedly being told that about how much money the school district lost that day? You know, that's wrong. I try to stay involved with the community and visit with parents. You know, I don't work for the school district, but I don't mind them venting with me. You know, I appreciate the free lunch situation that y'all came up with a couple of years back. Some of the students have been complaining that they've been getting leftovers. I don't know who needs to look into that and make sure that doesn't happen, but that's wrong too. The last thing I want to talk about tonight is, you know, y'all spend a lot of money on the transportation department with the buses and stuff. And I've been noticing, because I'm a driver myself, I don't work for the school district, but I used to. They've been putting stickers on the buses now that says that they're looking for drivers. Now, I did sit at one time with the superintendent there, and, you know, I was sharing my experience with the Transportation Department about how there's certain members of that department that contribute to this shortage because of the way they handle the situation. So money is not the solution. You know, here we are, this board giving money, that's not the solution. It's those folks that are there that are causing employees to leave. He's well aware of, because everybody he was telling me when we were talking, those are the individuals that I've identified that caused a lot of these problems at the Transportation Department. It's costing us lots of money, and it really needs to be taken care of sooner than later. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maya. Second speaker, Dan Lyon, on trustee conduct.
Thank you, President Cantu. I'm not going to get any joy out of what I have to say tonight, but somebody has to say it, so I guess, once again, it's up to me to say it. On Friday, April 19th, 2019, just after midnight, Trustee Arredondo was booked for a DWI Class B misdemeanor. Mr. Arredondo was quoted on April 20th, 2019, in the Corridor News saying that he had an, quote, alcohol use disorder, unquote. He further stated, quote, democracy is by the people, for the people, and the reality is many of us struggle with addiction. I pledge to do what so many of us need to do, acknowledge my dependency and seek immediate professional rehabilitation services to overcome this illness that has negatively affected me, the people I love, and those I am committed to serve. Mr. Arredondo, you did not have an image PR problem.
Cut his mic off, please.
May I have my 3 minutes, please?
You cannot attack us. If you read this,
This is a statement of facts.
you cannot continue. I'm sorry.
It is a statement of facts. There is nothing in there that's a personal attack. If you read that, it will talk about personal attacks. This is not a personal attack. I would appreciate it if you would let me finish.
You can't name a board member. I don't know how much more clear we have to be. You cannot
Where does
name
it
them
say
by,
that?
it actually says including board
I cannot make
members.
a personal attack on a board member.
Well, the board
A
president
staff
just let you
or
know.
a staff or a board member.
I'm not making a personal attack. A personal attack would be saying, I don't like this person, I think this person is this, that, or the other.
Maybe because what you're reading, it was already in the paper, so you're not informing people on anything new. You're just stating facts.
You're just changing the rules as we stand here.
It says on here.
It says no personal attack. I'm just reading the facts.
Which were already in the newspaper, sir.
And I have the right to read them because it's my 3 minutes.
Yes.
Is the entirety of the statement the newspaper article?
No. I'm almost through with the quotes, and I'm not sure where I am right now. Okay. This illness has negatively affected me, the people I love, and those I am committed to serve. Mr. Arredondo, you do not have an image or PR problem. By your own
Mr.
admission,
Lyons.
you have an alcohol problem.
Mr. Lyons, enough,
cannot-
Mr. Lyons.
You are out of order, Mr. Cardona.
Mr. Lyons,
You are out of order.
no, actually, I'm not.
You have to stop.
I don't know how much
attacking
more
the board
clear
member.
you need to be, so your time's
I don't
up.
know how much more clear it could be either. I read the thing.
Can you escort him out?
It said no personal attack. You can expect me to file a suit for this. Thank you very much. I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you.
We're going to move up the executive session and go into executive session as authorized by Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code to discuss discussion regarding Rodriguez Elementary School Assistant Principal, discussion regarding San Marcos High School Principal. 6:39? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Nicole Recio as assistant principal at Rodriguez Elementary.
Second? Second from Ms. All in favor? 6 opposed, 0.
Margie, were you the second?
No.
Hope he was.
Luca. Luca was the second.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Recio, for those of you who don't know me, and I am just beyond excited for this opportunity. This is something that we've been talking about, and I've been, discussing with my family. I've had the opportunity and privilege for the last 4 years to be a teacher and then an instructional coach at the middle schools, and I know that this is going to be an amazing task, an amazing school, and I'm very, very honored and privileged to be the assistant principal at Rodriguez Elementary. So thank you very much.
Ms. Halsey?
No, I'm just waiting.
Okay. I'm ready for a motion on the San Marcos High School principal. Ms. Halsey?
I move that we approve Ms. Denisha Presley as the new San Marcos High School principal.
A second.
Ms. Hanson seconds. All in favor? 6 opposed, 0.
So I'm trying to hold all of the excitement in, and I won't dance again, I promise. So thank you to the board, thank you to Superintendent Cardona, Assistant Superintendent Monica Ruiz-Mills. Thank you. They have been so gracious throughout the entire process, and the thorough investigation, so to speak, or interview process was amazing. So to have student representation, parent representation on the interview committee speaks a lot about what this school values. So I'm super excited. Having seen the recognitions today, no surprise that this is an organization that is fully invested in the whole child. So we have seen everything from academics to athletics to fine arts, and I'm just excited to jump on board and come back home.
We're now ready for reports and informational items, academic update.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Cardona. I'm Monica Ruiz-Mills, Deputy Superintendent, and we're going to start our academic update presentation, starting with SHAC, and Mr. Ed Rios will come up here to give the SHAC yearly update.
All right, good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, Trustees, and everyone here. First of all, before we get into our annual report, we want to recognize some of the SHAC members who are completing their term at the end of this school year. So Jennifer, my co-chair.
All right. So these were 2-year terms. They were nominated in 2017, and they are finishing their term this past May in 2019. We'd like to recognize them, and the 2 members remaining are Marty Nelson and Naomi Narvise, and if you would come forward, we have a certificate and something special. I'd also like to recognize that we had Lisa Mazer, Hannah Dre, Naomi, I already said that, Deborah Gauntlet, Dr. Sue Harrison, Lindsay Martinez, Carol Peters, Brittany Cross, Jim Corona Morris, Arlene Mendoza, and Raquel Cervantes, and Gabriella Moore, Amanda Delman, Mary Salam, Mr. Rios, Courtney Gribben, Michelle Villapando, and Philip Phelps, and Kimberly Adams, and Tim Bauer-Camper, and Mr. Pig, Michael Pig. Thank you, ladies. Here, let me give you your certificate.
sorry, Naomi and Marty, we have to get a picture with you guys.
Yes.
I was supposed to hand them out. Yeah, where's the ball up there?
Keep scooting over. Keep scooting over.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's it. That's it, I think.
All right. This has been a busy year for SHAC. I want to go through our annual report. As co-chair with Jennifer, the last 2 years have really been a transformation for the organization as a whole, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that we've really tried to stress is really focusing on the mission, and the mission being, you know, the health and well-being of those in our district with students and employees. So some of the things that we're doing to really get the ball rolling for next year is we're doing a lot of stuff in May, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on with the process of getting the new members on SHAC. But we do have our meetings already scheduled for next year, and they're up there. You guys have a copy of this. We've done a lot of planning going forward. So let's talk a little bit about what we've done. Our focus in 2018, 2019 was several key things that came into our plate here. One is increasing the suicide awareness and prevention, ensuring procedures for sexual health education, implementing new ideas for parent participation in the Girl Talk, Boy Talk, going to Beyond the Talk, increasing the health and fitness in the district, and then also, you know, we're going to be really taking into consideration the FitnessGram stuff going into next year. And then really emergency procedures, first response, minor emergency, safe place to be, a lot of parent-family awareness. And so some of what we accomplished this year, like I said, this last couple of years have been very formative, and what we focused on was governance. The 2-year appointments that came up this past year really enabled us to start getting our focus to the numbers where we want it to be, to make sure that this is an effective organization that really is an extension of you guys. You know, so we did, we put things in place. We really elevated the transparency with the process to give people an opportunity, working with Andrew on the PR, getting the word out as we went through the nomination process for new members. Suicide awareness and prevention, a huge, huge deal, being that this is a Mental Health Awareness Month. So we did some training. The FitnessGram testing continued. There was a lot of additional wellness opportunities that not only that the district took advantage, but that we encouraged throughout all of our campuses. The implementation of the Heimlich Heroes training at all of our elementary campuses. My daughter goes to Crockett, so she was able to learn some of that in her class, in her school. The Catch curriculum, which we have had before, continuing to do that. And then the sexual health education, we had a structured district briefing called Beyond the Talk. It was formerly the Girl Talk, Boy Talk. Some of the things that we also want to take note of is we're maintaining a less than 1% repeat pregnancy rate. We had our second year of free flu immunizations for students all across the district, so that was really good. This year also marked the first time that first time probably in a while, that we had a health fair We had it here at the high school at the Student Activity Center, and it was a great event. It was a good first event. The Shack is really taking this on next year to do even more, really get some education and awareness. And then I was very honored to receive the Community Health Partner Award. I've done a lot with the district here, so thank you for that. So we have a little video. I think this will be something a little positive to get us going here. Kind of chronicles our year. Okay, so just like I said, we've done a lot of planning for next year. We really want to hit the ball rolling in August when we come back. So in 2019, 2020, as you know, legislation is still continuing. So there are some things that are going to touch our plate if they pass through our legislation. But some of the things that we're going to key focus on is increased suicide awareness and prevention, of course, continue procedures for sexual health education program. We're going to really look at the fitnessgram results and implement new recommendations across the campuses. Evaluate all the campus CIPs, working with the district to make sure that the SHAC requirements are included in there. Continue to evaluate emergency procedures, and then focus, of course, like I said, on any new legislation. Basically, this is our report out for our 2019-2020 initial goals. In August, when we come back here, we want to be able to present to you guys the 2019-20 final goals based on the legislation that passes through. And thank you very much. We appreciate it. It's been a pleasure serving with all the folks that I've served with, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item, bell schedules.
So at our agenda prep, we were asked to provide what the high school bell schedule would look like, implementing, especially with the lunch periods. And so right up here, and it's also in the packet that we put on the dais, we have what the proposed high school bell schedule will look like. And let me, do I get rid of that little thing now? So as you can see, the proposed schedule for the 2019-2020 school year, we go to 55-minute classes, going to 2 lunch periods, which we feel will alleviate some of the congestion in the 1 lunch period, and then going to an 8-period day. Okay. With that said, we can also go to the middle school bell schedule. Again, that one, the first bell would start at 8:15, and they have 2 lunch periods as well with an advisory that is embedded. And then we have the elementary bell schedule. Are there any questions in regards to the high school bell schedule?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
We're adding minutes because we needed to add minutes, or did we have, what is the number of minutes we have to have versus what we're going to have now?
So House Bill 2442, which passed in 2015, stated that we needed to have 75,600 minutes total.
For high
And
school.
so, and that's for everybody. What the state did was they eliminated the 180 days of instructional days and went to minutes instead, allowing for more flexibility with school districts. With the high school, by increasing the school day by 15 minutes, we now go to 83,420 minutes. If left the same, for this current school year, we had 80,840 minutes. The additional 15 minutes adds additional instructional support, allows for more flexibility with the curriculum. It allows for 55-minute class periods, which that's 5 minutes, almost to an hour. And it also gives us an 8-period day with those 2 lunches. And so that's where we'll also be able to enhance student learning and also really focus on those targeted supports as needed for enrichment during the day. Going to the middle school on those minutes, which is right there. Again, just adding 15 minutes, and we have collaborated with transportation, worked diligently with Mr. Wozniak on the schedule. The DEIC provided input as well, but for the 2019-2020 school year, increasing by 15 minutes at the end of the school day, we go to 82,560 minutes. Currently, they're only at 79,980 minutes. Looking at elementary, we didn't change any start times to any of these. Adding an additional 15 minutes to elementary actually takes us to 78,260 minutes. Again, the law says 75,600. Currently, we only have 75,680. And so this will allow, especially at elementary, again, enhanced instructional support, but also gives us the flexibility to add the intended breaks where we can also focus on the social emotional learning that we would like to embed on top of the literacy and numeracy time allotments that we have in place.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I mean, I understand the benefits of the longer day, but this seems like this would go in conjunction with our calendar. Like, can we just get off a week earlier?
So if we met the required minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it
we
seems like
need
we
to look
would.
at
Even
it.
at the elementary level, we're at 78,260, so we don't have to be at 75,6. I'm not trying to make any sort of like calendar change, but it seems like those things go hand in hand. That if the calendar committee and the folks putting forth that proposal had known that we were going to extend an additional 15 minutes, it would have provided them some more flexibility. I don't know if they would have chosen to end a week earlier. Maybe that's just me talking in May, but I don't know. Did we circle back to that group or any representative of the group?
We circled back to it. We were looking at it more from a standpoint of including additional minutes to focus on instruction. It would still, the teachers would still have to meet their, 187 contractual days. The minutes are what would be required. So even if students were released a week early, we would still need to make sure that the teachers were still fulfilling their contracts.
I see.
Ms. Hanson?
This also gives us built-in bad weather days.
Yes, the bad weather makeup days are built in because of these minutes, so therefore we wouldn't have to designate or tag any on later on.
Ms. Halsey?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So the middle school lunch, I'm unclear as to the 52, 30. What's the 30?
So the 30 is the 30-minute duty-free lunch that teachers get depending on if that teacher has lunch fourth period or fifth period.
Okay. And then the high school lunch, splitting it into two lunches, do we assume that this will help to curb some of the issues that we've experienced this year during that lunch period?
Yes, ma'am, that's the intent, to alleviate the congestion during the lunch periods.
And at the elementary school, if we're going to extend the day, are we going to ensure that all elementary schools are having 2 recesses a day?
That all elementary schools are, pardon? Repeat.
Having 2 recesses a day?
No, they'll still get their 25-minute recess, and making sure that they do, though, get the 135 minutes required for physical activity per week.
Okay, well, I know that there are some classrooms throughout the campus that are having 2 recesses a day, and I strongly think that all elementary schools should implement that, especially in the K through 3rd grades, if we're going to extend the day. So
Okay.
that's.
I have a question. So in the middle school, if they're getting out later, how is this going to affect their competitions and the things they do after school, their tutorials? That just means that the day is longer for those students. Like, let's say, and I know that we don't build a schedule based on athletics, but I'm remembering being at Goodnight and they were always having to go somewhere and be somewhere at a certain time. Is that going to be taken into consideration when, like, athletics has to get to, say, Seguin or Lulen or Lockhart?
Yes, they'll be taken into consideration just like it is now. So if they're having to leave prior to the school day getting out, then under the direction of Coach Soto, we would work with that. So yes.
Okay.
They're just absent then when they're going to a game. I think the broader, I don't know, as a parent, the bigger challenge is that some of the sports have to start really early, and going from 6:30 a.m. to now 4:15 that's just a long stretch of time.
Especially for middle schoolers.
Right. I think most middle schools, I don't know, coaches could speak on this more than I think most middle schools practices after school. No? They practice in the morning,
It depends on what sport, and they alternate years in sports between girls and boys. We just had a whole season of soccer that started at 6:15. So.
Well, it's a long day, that's for
It's
sure.
a really long day.
But it's the 2 lunches that we needed in this case.
I understand on the lunches. I'm just thinking about middle school because you're not changing much in middle school because I know they already had, their, 3 lunches at the,
2 lunches.
you already had 2 lunches or did you all have 3?
We have 2 lunches at the middle school.
Duval, Mr. Duval?
Oh, then they have 1 at each
So they
grade
have
level.
3 lunches.
Mhm.
So you added a couple of minutes to each period, or you're adding another
Yes,
period?
so for the middle school bell schedule, if you look at that, we added in first period, third period, 6th period, and 7th period, each received an additional 2 minutes. We added, so it's 52-minute classes. Second period is 53 for announcements. And then we have the lunch periods, which again are 52 minutes, and then you have the 30 minutes for the teacher's advisory remained at 43 minutes.
Because you still have the wrap. I feel like Mr. McLaughlin, it's a long day for middle schoolers. High school students are a little older and they can handle the additional minutes maybe because they're older, but I worry about our middle schoolers, especially our 6th graders, because it's such a change for our 6th graders going from 3:15 in 5th grade, they'll get out. You see, elementary gets out at 3:15 being proposed, and then in middle school, they're gonna be getting out, what, 4:15?
Middle school gets out at 4:10.
4:10. It's almost a whole hour difference for.
But they're starting later, too.
No, we didn't adjust the start times. The first bell.
Start time is still the same.
Yes.
Elementary, they're starting later.
Yeah.
And elementary starts at the same time. We didn't change any start times.
I was just saying, compared to elementary,
Yes.
the middle schools are starting later.
But you're extending the kindergarten through 5th, actually 20 minutes. They're currently ending at 2:55, and they're going to be ending at 3:55. To me, that's 3:15.
3:15.
That's 20 minutes. That's not 15. That's 20 minutes that we're extending.
You're right, it should be 3:10.
Right?
That should be 3:10?
I didn't use my big hand, right?
Okay, all right.
Should be
So it's not
3:10.
3:15. So all the
It's
the
3:10.
campuses are being
15
extended
minutes,
15
yes.
minutes.
So when you were getting ready to propose this, did you take it up with like CIT at the middle schools or? Because I understand that elementary needed the extra minutes, right?
Yes.
But middle school and high school didn't need the extra minutes. But just to have parity, everybody got the 15 minutes? Is that true or?
We did it for consistency, yes. And to add instructional minutes to the day, because we hear a lot, we don't have enough time during the day, you know, to get to what we need. We hear it at secondary as well.
When it was.
Ms. Costilla?
Thank you. When it was being developed, the input, where did you get input from?
From the DEIC, the District Educational Improvement Committee, and from Cabinet.
So
We've
are
also
the
spoken to
schools are
teachers
aware
as
that
well.
this is coming?
Not, as of right now, we're proposing it. We're stating that this is what we intend to do for the upcoming
Propose for
school
next
year,
year.
yes.
Ms. Cantu?
Yes, Ms. Halsey?
If this is
Sorry.
approved tonight, I'd really like to see the superintendent send out a strong message to the community and parents explaining why we're taking these steps and how it affects, or how we predict it will affect academics. Go ahead.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
we agendized this just as a report, so we're not gonna vote
We're
up,
not
down
voting
on
on
bell
it.
schedules. I don't think we have in the past, but it's something we can bring back if there's,
Right.
you know, 2 board members that want to discuss it at the June meeting. But tonight, it was just a report.
Just a report.
Sure,
And this isn't something we normally vote on anyway.
no.
Okay, well, so if we move forward this, I'd just like to see really strong communication about why we're doing it to the
So
community.
everybody knows.
Right, and also I think that maybe an opportunity for high school students to readjust their course selections because we're moving to an 8-period day. Perhaps some choices might have been different than what they initially submitted. So just an opening of that window, or at least a communication that that is possible, I think would be helpful.
I guess.
Any other questions, comments? You can proceed, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Proclamation 2019.
Didn't we do that?
Next, we'll bring up Mr. James Navarez.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Cardona, my name is James Navarez, Director of Educational Technology. I'd also like to introduce Ms. Gina Lately, Professional Development RTI Coordinator, and Ms. Nicole Recio, former EOLA secondary coach, current Rodriguez Assistant Principal. Tonight we'll be discussing Proclamation 2019, Materials Adoption, and IMA. IMA stands for Instructional Materials Allotment, and it was set up under Chapter 31 of the Texas Education Code. It's funding provided by TEA or by the state to allow districts to purchase instructional materials, textbooks, without impact to operating budget. So when the legislative session ends at the end of May, we'll be given an allotment of funds referred to as IMA funds. The districts will cover, the IMA funding will cover our IMA biennium, which includes Proclamation 2019 and Proclamation 2020. We'll have access to the funds beginning in September of the 2019 school year, and we'll access those funds through TEA site EMAT. My responsibility is to facilitate the process to help the districts choose the best materials for the materials under adoption, and to ensure that our IMA monies are allocated appropriately. The state provides the budget, and we make sure that we're within that budget. Today's discussion will focus mostly on Proclamation 2019. Those are materials English language arts and reading K through 8, Spanish language arts and reading materials K through 5, and handwriting and spelling K through 5. The process begins when the State Board of Education makes revisions to existing TEKS or adopts new TEKS. In May of 2017, the State Board of Education gave final approval for the newly adopted K through 8 English language arts and reading TEKS, final approval for K through 5 Spanish language arts and reading TEKS, and final approval for K through 5 handwriting and spelling TEKS. So this is a high-level look at our adoption timeline. So we started instructional materials procedure overview for campuses in October. We then established campus committees, and then we established a district committee. After those committees were established, sample materials were ordered, and we began the review process. And that takes us into about February of 2019. We also attended a Region 13 IMA showcase, where we were able to meet with publishers, get more in-depth information on proposed materials by publishers in the state adopted list. March and April timeframe, we had a DEIC presentation where we gave background information on Proclamation 2019 and also presented them with sample materials so that they could review. In April, we had an ELA showcase open to the public. It was held at Bonham Pre-K from 2:30 to 6:30. We invited the entire community. Mr. Fernandez was crucial in helping us message that out to district staff, students, and parents. During that time also, we had campuses submit their committee votes for the materials that they preferred. So speaking of campus committees were comprised of campus principal, their campus instructional coach, and for elementary schools, it's one representative from each grade level. For middle schools, it was one representative for each grade level / content area. For the district committee, we had well-rounded representation from Deputy Superintendent to Director of Bilingual Services, Special Education Services, Professional Development, GT, Educational Technology. We also had instructional content expertise, as well as Principal for Rodriguez Elementary. So this is a complete list of the K-5 materials that we reviewed. When committees began to investigate materials, the first goal was to make sure that 100% of the TEKS were covered. Based on that constraint alone, we were able to rule out several products. We also utilized edreports.org, which is a third-party nonprofit organization with the goal of helping districts improve the instructional material adoption process. They rate products based on two different domains, text quality and building knowledge. So depending on how products fared against edreports.com, we were able to reduce those that we looked at. The final two for our monolingual classrooms, K through 5, are Fontes de Pinel by Heinemann and Into Reading by HMH. Dual lingual and bilingual materials, Benchmark Workshop by Benchmark Education, and Descubre by Santiana, which was just purchased by Vista Higher Learning. For handwriting and spelling, we have two best-in-breed products, Handwriting Without Tears by Learning Without Tears, and Handwriting and Spelling by Zaner Bloser. So after we received all of our rubrics and votes from campus committees for English Language Arts and Reading K through 5, campus committees preferred or voted for Fontes de Pinel Classroom over HMH's Into Reading. They voted for Benchmark Education for Spanish Language Arts and Reading for our dual language classes over the Descubre Santiana, and Handwriting Without Tears over Zane Bloser's product. Okay. This was a rinse and repeat. We repeated the same process for 6 through 8 materials. So much like the process for K through 5, we began weeding out products. Those that did not cover 100% of the TEKS, we did away with. Those that did not fare well against edreports.org or did not have a cohesive digital platform, we did away with. Please remember, we're going to be completely one-to-one 6 through 12 next year. So the final products that were given to campuses for their review were Springboard ELA by College Board, Texas Study Sync by McGraw-Hill, and My Perspectives by Pearson Education. Both middle school campus committees preferred McGraw-Hill Study Sync over Pearson's product for English Language Arts course, academic courses 6 through 8. For pre-AP courses, we'll continue to utilize College Board and add the Springboard ELA component. This will help ensure that we have vertical alignment with our San Marcos High School AP courses. To recap, these are the materials recommended by campus committees for board approval under Proclamation 2019. Just to reiterate, we have Fontes de Pinel Classroom, K through 5 English Language Arts and Reading, Benchmark Education for dual language and bilingual education, Handwriting Without Tears for K through 5, McGraw-Hill Education Study Sync, 6 through 8 academic courses, and College Board Springboard ELA 6 through 8 pre-AP courses. That's the end of the formal presentation. I'll open it up to questions.
Ms. Halsey?
Thanks so much. I have a couple questions. When the Fontes de Pinel literacy curriculum in the elementary schools, what is that replacing?
Fontes de Pinel literacy, can you repeat your question?
In the elementary schools?
Yes, ma'am.
What curriculum are we replacing? What
We're replacing Journeys.
Journeys, okay. And so if I'm not mistaken, we're also using Fontes de Pinel in the pre-K currently, is that correct?
Fontes de Pinel pre-K, kinder, and first grade currently.
Super, so that will scale up to 5th grade. So then,
Yes, ma'am.
how will the transition work between, I understand we've tied the middle school curriculum to vertically align it with the high school curriculum, which is great, but how are we anticipating the transition between 5th and 6th to occur?
The approach is very similar between the Fontes and Pinel and the McGraw-Hill and Springboard. Both reading, writing workshop, the transition should be smooth between 5th and 6th grade.
That's great, because I've heard really great feedback from teachers on the Fontes and Pinel and also on Springboard, so.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Anybody else need a break? No, I need a break.
Next, we have Mr. Wesson, construction update.
Okay, if we can do a quick, yeah. If we're gonna take a few minutes, otherwise I'm gonna call for a break. 'Cause some of the board needs a break.
Okay.
Is it a short or is it a long?
It's whatever you want. Any questions about construction update?
Let's just let him,
Let him go?
yeah, and then we can take a comfortable break.
Okay, thanks. We'll go ahead and go on with the construction update.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Cardona. I'm Jay Weston, the Facilities Director for the district. In your board packets, pages 29 through 56 is the bond planning and current construction project update. We have our architects here and the majority of our general contractors here, so if you have any questions from that update or report.
Anybody?
I appreciate the thoroughness in the submitted materials. I read them before the meeting and don't have any questions.
I like all the pictures too.
So it's to say we're on schedule, right? That's to say we're on schedule.
Yes, ma'am, the
The
schedules are
schedule
in
that
there.
we're supposed to, yeah.
I've had lots of people comment to me about the new Rodriguez Elementary. They really like the way it's coming along and the way it's gonna
It's
look.
going to be an amazing building, it really is.
I went through all the pictures on here. No other questions? We're gonna take a break for about 5 minutes at least, maybe 7. Depends on when we come back.
We used to be here in 5 or 7.
Sorry. At 8:01.
All right.
Okay, we'll go into the approval of consent agenda items.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the regularly scheduled board meeting, or the consent agenda items generally. How about
Okay,
that?
do I hear a second?
I second.
Ms. Hanson seconds. Discussion, questions, all in favor? 6. Opposed? 0. Items for action. Consider approval of budget amendments.
Good evening. So we have a budget amendment for technology. I have Mr. Greg Hubenak and Ms. Denise Gonzalez Garcia up here, and they will go ahead and explain the budget amendment.
Okay,
Budget amendment is just basically moving money within our own budget, our department budget, to cover utilities for fiber connectivity. There was an early termination fee that we needed to pay, so we didn't budget that. So once we pay it, our bill will be reduced over the next couple of years. But it's just moving money within our department.
I have a question. So this $28,000 is not for any service we received as a district, it's because we terminated service early?
Whenever you enter a contract with a service provider like that, whenever they have to build fiber out to some places and sometimes use equipment, they do a ROI, a return on investment, and come up with a figure that they need to get for that amount of years. And pretty much, that's what you're on the hook for. So whether or not we pay that out monthly, we add sites or remove sites, it's kind of irrelevant. But the early termination fees is because we got rid of a location. So.
And 501 Burleson, that's the old Lamar site?
That's right. And so we could continue to pay that just throughout until the end of the contract, because again, that's our contractual amount to pay over X amount of years.
Why would we have ever agreed to
pay
pay
it
over that
after-
many years on a facility we were abandoning?
If we had taken that site out, they would have probably increased the amount we pay for all of the other sites. Again, they're looking at, this is the amount that, in order to justify this fiber construction and whatnot, that we need to receive over X amount of years.
That was part of a conversation you had with them, or are you just speculating?
That's the whole idea of the ROI, a return on investment model.
Did you negotiate this contract?
We negotiated
No,
with them.
did you negotiate this contract? For the fiber service at 501 Burleson?
We did put it out. We did an RFP, and we looked at the bids, and so yeah, we worked with them, and we executed that contract.
This just seems like a complete waste. I mean, this is for no service at all. In a time of tight budgets, not only is this not impacting the classroom, this is not even something that we received. It's just like a termination fee, like if you change providers. And we're purchasing service. Is it from the same provider at the other location? Spectrum, this is Spectrum.
Yes, Spectrum.
Is Spectrum our provider at the new location?
At Rodriguez?
No, I presume that 511 Burleson moved to the
201 Suttles.
Suttles, yes?
Right, same provider.
Okay. And there was no ability to negotiate this in a different manner that wouldn't cost us $28,000 for nothing?
One thing we did negotiate with them actually is when we did that move, there was significant fiber construction that had to be done because there was one fiber feed going into the existing transportation building. And since our data center was going to be at that location, we needed geographic redundancy, meaning fiber needs to come in one direction and out the other. When a backhoe comes and cuts your fiber, the entire district doesn't go down. So Time Warner actually agreed to do that work for us free of charge, and the bill was significant. Again, so the resulting contract for X amount of years is for all of our services to include absorbing that construction.
And why would we be terminating? So are we still getting service at 511 Burleson? We haven't owned that building for, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years?
Now, similar to 501 South LBJ, there's no one there. We still own that facility. We still pay for service at that facility.
We do not.
For what service?
We own the Lamar facility?
No, he's saying
LBJ.
This is 511 Burleson is what
Right.
it says.
No, but he's saying similar to the LBJ facility.
No, it's not similar at all, though. Like, the LBJ facility is still district
Ours.
property, right? We sold this before I was on the board. So we haven't been in there for at least 4 years, right?
That's correct, I think.
Burleson has been sold.
Yeah.
501 South OBJ, we still own.
So, but you said they were similar, right?
Well, it's similar in the way that we are not actually receiving service from Spectrum at that location, yet we're on the hook. Our contract is for X amount of locations in town, 13 locations. And that number has fluctuated up and down with different moves, and like, for example, we could have added the new transportation facility, would have taken the place, but we opted to piggyback that off of Goodnight. If we hadn't, we would be paying for service at the transportation facility, the new one, the new annex. It would have taken the place of the other site, because we're on the hook for 13.
So we pay a monthly fee for service, for Spectrum service, to 511 Burleson. Like last month, we paid for service to that site that hasn't been occupied for 4 years.
Right. I think another way of looking at it is we pay Spectrum a certain amount of money monthly for all of our fiber service, period, across all these locations. And we entered a contract for that amount for them to provide fiber up to this many sites. So they have split that out across the individual sites. So the fact that we moved out of one doesn't necessarily change the total amount that we still pay them for service across all of our locations. And it's not uncommon to have early termination fees in these types of contracts, right? So, and you know, we did look at the terms of the contract, and it's pretty common for telecom carriers to have them in there like that. CenturyLink has the same thing.
We can't renegotiate since we don't own the property anymore?
You can attempt contract amendment.
Telecom companies work a lot different in their contracts, and you're not really, what we're paying for is to have the fiber built to the campus. So they built the fiber to Lamar, we asked them to. So then they stretched that over the term of the contract. They still built the fiber on our behalf. It's not like we are renting, you know, at your house. There may be a cable, and you get cable TV, and you pay monthly for it, and if you move out, the next person, they run it down all the streets. For us, we asked them, we went out for bid. I think Grande bid and Time Warner at the time, correct? Did we have a third?
CenturyLink possibly.
CenturyLink bid also. All of them bid the same thing. In locations where they did not have existing fiber, they bid to build the fiber to us, and it was going to be blank amount of money over this many years, so a per month price. So they built the fiber to us, and we owe them the money, and that's how they write it in their contract. That's how all of their contracts were. We would have had, if it was $30,000 to build to us, we paid them $30,000. Didn't matter if the building burnt down and we didn't have a building there for 2 years, we would have still been paying the monthly fee for them to build the fiber to us.
In what year was this contract?
Oof, gosh. 14. I would say more like 2013.
Okay, I was thinking it's 2014. I could find out pretty quickly. I can get them all.
And in what year did we sell the property at 511 Burleson?
16?
3 years ago? 4?
It's not on the board.
4 years
I
ago?
think it's 4 years that we've sold
And
that
at least
property.
2015.
Before I came on. because it was
2015.
Yeah, we did continue renting it after we sold the property, so we were still in there.
Yeah, we were still at that site for a while. We rented it.
Uh-huh.
So we've
was
done
been
several things with new construction. I mean, whenever you're changing facilities, I mean, that always throws a wrench into things because you have long-term contracts. You enter a long-term contract because it saves you money, right? But we have so many locations in town. We have done things whenever we built the new Child Nutrition and Technology Center, also the new Transportation Center. Those very likely would have been new locations where we would have had to pay additional money, but we worked things out to where we could piggyback off of other sites to keep that number from increasing. So, I mean, we feel pretty good that we didn't have the total amount that we owe go up. But again, they're looking at this as a whole, as all these locations, and that was what the contract was at the
And
time.
how much is that?
We couldn't predict what buildings would be built or go away. during the length of that contract.
I mean, it seems like in 2014, property we were readying to move out of and sell, we could have predicted that we wouldn't still be in there. I don't understand why we would expend this kind of capital investment on a building we're leaving.
Well, there's another way of looking at it, and that is, oftentimes, you can go month to month with your service. You can go month to month with cell phone service, you can go month to month with like maybe your cable TV. But when you get into a contract, you always have reduced rates. You get into a multi-year contract for the reduced rates. So if we were, in fact, on a month-to-month type agreement with them, we would probably be paying much more for every location. But then when we disconnected a site and the site went away, then that bill would then disappear. In the long run, we would probably still spend more money than in a contractual type arrangement.
I have no confidence in that at all. And in the last 3 years that we haven't been in the building, how much have we paid each month for service at 511 Burleson?
$750.
$750. Why don't we just terminate it when we weren't in the building anymore? Why does this come years later?
It doesn't really matter because we have to pay that amount through the end of the contract. The only reason that we pulled it off was for administrative reasons right now, because as E-rate, to simplify that whole administrative process, because we can no longer receive reimbursement because it's not an active site. So whether or not we do this now or we do it later was kind of irrelevant. It came up now because our E-rate consultant recommended that we pull that off so that it became administratively more clear.
Can you provide this contract for me after the meeting?
Sure, absolutely.
That's all the questions I have, although I'm against the amendment.
Ms. Hanson?
Did we already move on this? I've forgotten. If not, I'd like to
No, we've not moved on it.
move that we approve the budget amendments.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Yapando seconds the motion. Any further question or discussion? All in favor? 5. Opposed?
Barry.
1. Thank you. We're pulling off B, land donation from La Cima, because we're not ready for that, so we're gonna table that for next month. Consider approval of are we doing the easement? Item C, consider approval of amendment to easement at San Marcos High School with Blue Bonnet Electric Cooperative, Inc.
I'll move that we amend the easement as provided in board materials.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Ms. Villalpando seconds. Any question or discussion? All in favor? 6, opposed, 0. Consider approval of proclamation 2019.
I move that we approve this.
Ms. Hanson moves. Do I hear a second? Ms. Costilla seconds. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? 6, opposed, 0. Consider approval to terminate the financial advisory services contract with Estrada Hinojosa and Company.
I'll move to terminate.
Ms. Villalpando moves. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hanson seconds. Any questions or discussion?
Yes. Is there financial penalty for the early termination of this contract?
No, we have a 30-day out clause for no reason.
We ready for the vote? All in favor? 5, opposed,
I'm going to abstain.
1 abstention. Okay. Consideration and approval to engage Tijerina Galvan Lawrence LLC as the district's financial advisor and approval of contract regarding same.
I move that we approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Costilla moves, Ms. Hanson second. Any questions? Comments? All in favor? 5,
I'm going to
opposed,
abstain.
0, abstention, 1. Consider approval of updated board operating procedures.
I'm going to move that we table this matter for further discussion at the next agenda prep
I second.
meeting.
Moved by Mr. McLaughlin, seconded by Ms. Halsey. Any questions or discussion? Call for the,
Brought this up 3 times already. I'm ready to go ahead and move on it.
Do we need more information?
I mean, what are we tabling
There's,
for?
yeah, there's at least 3 provisions that I disagree with and think are either poorly worded or should be removed among the 12 restrictions. And so I think that we should carve those out and have a discussion about what our goal is here and how this meets it. So I think we can do that in an agenda prep. I don't think that needs to be a long topic of discussion at this meeting.
Did we have this at the agenda prep the last time?
We were just provided
received
it then.
We
Like we
only
got it when we
received-
walked in, right? So.
you just got it so that you'd have time to look at it. And also, it'd be better if we work on it ourselves instead of spending money on legal counsel to rework it. Because every time that's gone to legal counsel, we've been paying money, so
So do we know some other items that we want to change besides what's in red in here?
I think those were pretty
I
much
think that's what we're suggesting, is that we
Yeah.
have that as a workshop conversation at the agenda prep rather than spend any more time on it this evening,
Right.
as we
That's-
have done previously when we've gone through.
Can we know ahead of time which ones? I mean,
I mean, I can only speak for myself, but
No, I think the whole point is that we're gonna have a conversation. I'm happy to provide it in writing, but I think we're either gonna do it now or we're not. Like,
I just want to know number 4, number 5, whatever the number is. That's all I'm asking.
right, and I can't provide that right now.
ready for the vote? All in favor?
Of the, I'll go ahead and support that. I
To
just-
table.
To table it?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready for the vote? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you voting? 5. Opposed? 1. I'm just writing my note. Item H, consider approval of bank depository renewal.
I'll move that we approve the bank depository renewal as provided in the board materials with Frost Bank.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. McLaughlin makes the motion and Ms. Viapondo seconds. Any questions or discussion? Ready for the vote? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 0. Consider approval of SHAC members.
I move that we approve the SHAC members as recommended by the committee.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. McLaughlin seconds. Discussion or questions? All in favor? 6, opposed, 0.
Ms. Cantu, I just wanted to thank the SHAC committee and administration for putting together this process. I think it's much more logical, it's transparent, it's really clear. I think that the committee's worked very hard over the last 2 years to really set an agenda and goals and to stick to it. And I appreciate that work and all of that effort, and I'm really proud of everything you've done, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion
move
for
that we
adjournment.
adjourn.
Who moved?
Me.
Kathy? I'll second the motion.
Ms. Hanson moves to adjourn. Ms. Viapondo seconds. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 0.